So I'm going to do Act 1, Scene 6 and Act 1, Scene 7 together. Act 1, Scene 6 is rather short. So here's the description. King Duncan and his attendants arrive at Inverness, at the castle where Macbeth lives. Lady Macbeth welcomes them. That's pretty much it. This word here, though, hot boys, there's a hyperlink here that you can click, but hot boys is simply a woodwind instrument, so it's the sounding of instrument. So torches and instruments, you can imagine that it's quite the entrance that they are, or the welcome that they're giving Duncan.
This castle hath a pleasant seat. The air nimbly and sweetly recommends itself unto our gentle senses.
This guest of summer, the temple-haunting martlet, does approve by his loved mansionry that the heaven's breath smells wooingly here. No chatty frieze buttress nor coign of vantage, but this bird hath made his pendant bed and procreant cradle. Where they most breed and haunt, I have observed, the air is delicate.
So they're simply saying that it's so beautiful here, it can only be the home of people who are wonderful.
See, our honored hostess. The love that follows us sometime is our trouble, which still we thank as love. Herein I teach you how you shall bid God yield us for your pains and thank us for your trouble.
All our service, in every point twice done and then done double, were poor and single business to contend against those honors deep and broad wherewith your majesty loads our house. For those of old and the late dignities heaped up to them, we rest your hermit.
She's laying it on really thick to Duncan. We've done everything and we would have done it again and again just to welcome you here. We are so grateful to have you. Just your being here brings us pleasure and noble standing.
Where's the Thane of Cawdor? We coursed him at the heels and had a purpose to be his purveyor. But he rides well, and his great love, sharp as his spur, hath helped him to his home before us. Fair and noble hostess, we are your guest tonight.
Your servants ever have theirs, themselves, and what is theirs in compt, to make their audit at your highness' pleasure, still to return your own.
Give me your hand. Conduct me to mine host. We love him highly and shall continue our graces towards him. By your leave, hostess.
Okay, so here we are in Act 1, Scene 7. And I'm going to read to you what the summary I have here. Act 1, Scene 7. Macbeth contemplates the reasons why it is a terrible thing to kill Duncan. Lady Macbeth mocks his fears and offers a plan for Duncan's murder, which Macbeth accepts. So again, Macbeth is still not feeling good about this whole murder your king who has been so kind to you thing and who has given you more land and who has come to stay at your castle, which is a huge deal. And he's not feeling too good about it. And so he has a monologue here, as you can see. And we will stop after this monologue to break it down a little bit.
If it were done when 'tis done, then 'twere well it were done quickly. If the assassination could trammel up the consequence and catch with his surcease success, that but this blow might be the be-all and the end-all here. But here upon this bank and shoal of time we jump the life to come. But in these cases we still have judgment here, that we but teach bloody instructions, which being taught, return to plague the inventor. This even-handed justice commends the ingredients of our poisoned chalice to our own lips. He's here in double trust.
Okay, so let's go back to this other side here, and I'm just going to read this part. So, if it were done when 'tis done, then 'twere well it were done quickly. So please, for the love of God, let us get this over. If the assassination could trammel up the consequence and catch with his surcease success, the assassination could end up with the consequence we want and end with the success that I want, but this blow might be the be-all and the end-all here. So the murder would be the be-all and end-all of the whole affair, and I would happily jump upon this bank if that jump upon that bank meant that I would become king. I would gladly put my soul and the afterlife at risk. But in these cases, we still have judgment here, but crimes like this are punished in the world. But that we teach bloody instructions. By being violent, we are violent in return. And by being violent upon one another, we are violent to the inventor. And I think we could kind of discuss what we might mean. Returned to plague the inventor. So is that God, maybe? This even-handed justice commends the ingredients of our poisoned chalice to our own lips. Right? So by doing this, I'm also bringing poison into my own lips. And then he goes on to talk about this double trust, that he has been trusted by Duncan in two ways. The first of which is that he is a subject of Duncan, and the second is that he is his host, right? He's got him staying there for the night, which is a very, very, one should be hospitable and considerate to someone who is staying with you, not murdering them. Okay, here we go. So he says, he is here, Duncan is here in double trust.
First, as I am his kinsman and his subject, strong both against the deed, then as his host, who should against his murderer shut the door, not bear the knife myself. Besides, this Duncan hath borne his faculty so meek, hath been so clear in his great office, that his
Honest.
virtues will plead like angels, trumpet-tongued, against the deep damnation of his taking off, and pity, like a naked newborn babe striding the blast, or heaven's cherubim horsed upon the sightless couriers of the air, shall blow the horrid deed in every eye. The tears shall drown the wind. I have no spur to prick the sides of my intent, but only vaulting ambition, which o'erleaps itself and falls on the other.
So after this part, first I'm his kinsman, second I'm his host. Then he goes on to say that Duncan is such an amazing man that if ever anyone should, so first of all, killing him itself is going against God or going against nature, right? Deep damnation would take off like a newborn babe, like killing a newborn baby. That's how terrible it would be. And even when people hear about it, the tears will drown them. And then this is a pretty famous line. I have no spur to prick the sides of my intent. So you have to imagine a horse and a rider, and where the rider on the back of his boots has those little spiky things that he digs into the side of the horse to make the horse go faster, right? So he's saying he has no spurs, the spiky things, to prick the sides of my intent. So to insert into the horse to make him go. He doesn't have a reason. He doesn't have any catalyst for making this change. He's talked a lot about why this would be a terrible thing. And the only thing that I have is vaulting ambition, which overleaps itself and falls on the other, right? So it overleaps itself. My ambition overleaps itself. It's going too far and falls upon itself in disaster.
How now, what news?
He is almost subbed. Why have you left the chamber?
Hath he asked for me?
Know you not he has?
We will proceed no further in this business. He hath honored me of late, and I have bought golden opinions from all sorts of people, which would be worn now in their newest gloss, not cast aside so soon.
Was the hope drunk wherein you dressed yourself? Hath it slept since? And wakes it now to look so green and pale at what it did so freely?
So Lady Macbeth is pretty appalled that he's having doubts and he's saying, no, I can't do it. She's saying, what, were you just drunk when you told me that you were going to do this? And now that you wake up and you're not drunk and you look so sickly at what you yourself said that you were going to do?
From this time such I account thy love. Art thou afeared to be the same in thine own act and valor as thou art in desire? Wouldst thou have that which thou esteem'st the ornament of life, and live a coward in thine own esteem, letting I dare not wait upon I would, like the poor cat of the adage?
So she's goading him on. She says, from this time, such I account thy love. Now I'm only going to esteem you hardly anything because you lied to me. Basically, you said you were going to do this thing and now you're not going to do it. You're afraid to do it. And from now on, you are going to live as a coward. Or are you going to take the crown, or are you going to live as a coward? And of course, he's a man of battle. He's a general. He's a lord. He doesn't like to be spoken to or to think of himself as someone who is a coward. So,
Prithee, peace. I dare do all that may become a man. Who dares do more is none.
What beast was then that made you break this enterprise to me?
why did you tell me about this in the first place then? You're saying you're a man, then you acted like a beast by even telling this to me. So again, she's manipulating him, but he's also allowing himself to be manipulated.
When you durst do it, then you were a man. And to be more than what you were, you would be so much more the man. Nor time nor place did then adhere, and yet you would make both. They have made themselves, and that their fitness now does unmake you.
Fate has brought him right into your house. And now, so time and place are here. And now that they have made themselves possible, now that's unmade you. Now you are no longer fit to it. So I have given suck and know how tender it is to love the babe that milks me. Right? So I have been a mother and I know what it is like to breastfeed a baby. I would, however, while it was smiling in my face, have plucked my nipple from his boneless gums and dashed the brains out, had I so sworn as you have done to this. Again, another famous set of lines by Lady Macbeth. She is saying, if I had promised to you, if I had sworn to you as you have sworn to me, if I had sworn to you that I would take a baby from my breast and dash its head out, its brains out, I would do it, no matter how I felt about it, because I promised you. And so she's using this, once again, to manipulate Macbeth into doing what she wants him to do. That said, he did tell her that he was going to do it. So I don't know, is there any part of this which leads us to believe that she is a sympathetic character in any way at this point?
You, I have given suck, and know how tender 'tis to love the babe that milks me. I would, while it was smiling in my face, have plucked my nipple from his boneless gums and dashed the brains out, had I so sworn as you have done to this.
If we should fail,
We fail? But screw your courage to the sticking place and will not fail. When Duncan is asleep, whereto the rather shall his day's hard journey soundly invite him, his two chamberlains will I with wine and wassail so convince, that memory, the warder of the brain, shall be a fume, and the receipt of reason a limbeck only. When in swinish sleep your drenched natures lies as in a death, what cannot you and I perform upon th' unguarded Duncan? What not put upon his spongy officers, who shall bear the guilt of our great quell?
So here's her plan. So Macbeth says, well, yeah, but I know I promised, but what if we fail? And she says, we're not going to fail. Screw your courage to the sticking place, which, by the way, is an invention. That phrase is an invention of Shakespeare right here. Will not fail. Instead, we will invite his two chamberlains, his servants, to have wine, and they will wine and smoke. Wine and smoke? Wine and wassail. And convince him carousing. So wassail is carousing. So merriment. And convince them that their memory and make them so drunk that they lose their minds, basically. They don't remember anything. And then when they are asleep from all of this wine and their drenched natures lie as in a death, what can we not do on the unguarded Duncan? We will put it upon his spongy officers, his drunken officers, and who will bear the guilt of our great quell? They will. So once again, she's saying we will get them drunk, we will wait until they pass out, and then we will convince everybody that it was them who did the murder, and they can't say otherwise because they were drunk. Pretty devious, but smart.
bring forth men, children only, for thy undaunted metal should compose nothing but males. Will it not be received when we have marked with blood those sleepy two of his own chamber, and use their very daggers that they have done?
Who dares receive it other, as we shall make our griefs and clamor roar upon his death?
I am settled, and bend up each corporal agent to this terrible feat. Away, and mock the time with fairest show. False face must hide what the false heart doth know.
All right, let's read that ending couplet. Away and mock the time with fairest show. False face must hide what the false heart doth know. This is actually the end of Act 1. Next week, we will move on to Act 2. So finally, so Macbeth has been convinced. So he asks on the previous page, he asks, how could they believe us? That's ridiculous, right? The drunken guards killed their own king. And she says, who would dare think that it happened another way? Who would dare think that we had anything to do with it, because we are going to make our griefs and clamor roar upon his death. We will be so loud about how horrified we are. I am settled, and bend up each corporal agent to this terrible feat. Away and mock the time with fairest show. False face must hide what the false heart doth know. So Shakespeare writes his plays in 5 acts, and this has been that exposition and a bit of rising action. And we're going to carry on with some rising action, pretty much until Act 5, until we find out how it's all going to turn out. All right, go ahead and reread this on your own, and I will see you in Act 2.